Sumba Island, lost in the Indonesian archipelago, acts like a magnet, drawing in explorers and travelers eager to touch a world of ancient customs. Here, where time flows by its own rules and the connection to ancestors is felt especially strongly, a tradition exists that, at first glance, might seem wild and outdated. Marriages formed through the ritual of abduction. But let's set aside our biases and try to look at this custom through the lens of anthropology to understand its deeper meaning and role in preserving the unique culture of this amazing island. What lies behind this ritual? Cruelty or a carefully thought-out social mechanism? And how does this tradition help the people of Sumba adapt to harsh environmental conditions and maintain their identity in the modern world?
Bride abduction, an initiation rite or a relic of the past? On Sumba Island, located in the shadow of the more famous Bali and Java, a marriage rarely begins with a romantic candlelit dinner or a proposal on one knee. Here, in some communities, a wedding begins with an abduction. Yes, you heard that right. A young man, with the support of his friends, literally kidnaps the girl he has chosen as his wife. Sounds shocking, doesn't it? But before we jump to conclusions, let's delve into the details of this ritual, which the locals call nothing less than pakuri. Pakuri is not just an act of violence or a display of male dominance. It is a complex and multifaceted ritual deeply rooted in Sumba's culture. It is part of an intricate system of social relations, traditions, and beliefs that have been shaped over centuries. The purpose of the abduction is not so much to force the girl into marriage as it is to observe certain formalities and symbolically mark the bride's transition from one social group to another. But how does the abduction itself happen? Most often, it occurs by prior agreement between the groom and the bride's family. Yes, you heard that right again. In most cases, the abduction is a planned action involving both sides. The bride's family is aware of the groom's plans in advance and typically does not offer serious resistance. Moreover, the abduction may even be staged to fulfill all the ritual's formalities. However, there are cases where the abduction happens without the bride or her family's knowledge. In such situations, the ritual can be more tense and even dangerous. If the bride's family does not agree to the marriage, they may try to retrieve the girl by force. This can result in conflicts and even clashes between the two families. But even in these cases, the purpose of the abduction is not to harm the bride. On the contrary, the groom and his friends must ensure her safety and protection. After the abduction, the girl is taken to the groom's house, where she is surrounded by care and attention. She is provided with all the necessary living conditions and an atmosphere of comfort and security. After the abduction, the next stage of the marriage ritual begins: negotiations between the families. Representatives of the groom's and bride's families meet to discuss the marriage terms and agree on the bride price. These negotiations can last for several days or even weeks. During the negotiations, families exchange gifts and express mutual respect. Only after all the marriage terms are agreed upon and the bride price is paid is the marriage considered officially concluded. Following this, a wedding celebration is held, to which all relatives and friends are invited. A wedding in Sumba is a vibrant and colorful event, accompanied by dances, songs, and traditional ceremonies. An anthropological perspective, adaptation to the environment and social survival. To understand the meaning of the bride abduction tradition in Sumba, it is necessary to look at it through the lens of anthropology. Anthropology studies the culture and social organization of various peoples around the world. It helps us understand how people adapt to their environment and how they build their social relationships. From an anthropological perspective, the bride abduction tradition in Sumba is a unique social adaptation that helps the island's inhabitants survive in harsh environmental conditions and preserve their culture. Sumba Island is not the most favorable place to live. Droughts, floods, and other natural disasters frequently occur here. In such conditions, survival requires people to be able to cooperate and support each other. The bride abduction tradition strengthens social ties between families and communities.
It creates a system of interdependence where each family needs the support of other families. A marriage between two families is not just a union of two people. It is a union of two clans that combine their resources and efforts to achieve common goals. Furthermore, the bride abduction tradition helps preserve the cultural identity of the people of Sumba. In the modern world, globalization and the spread of Western culture have a strong influence on traditional societies. Many peoples of the world are losing their customs and traditions, succumbing to the influence of mass culture. However, the people of Sumba stubbornly resist this influence. They carefully preserve their traditions and pass them down from generation to generation. The bride abduction tradition is one of the symbols of the cultural identity of the people of Sumba. It reminds them of their roots and helps them maintain their uniqueness in the modern world. Comparison with other cultures, the universality of marriage rituals. The bride abduction tradition is not unique to Sumba Island. Similar rituals exist in other cultures around the world. For example, in some regions of Africa and Asia, bride abduction is also part of the marriage ritual. However, in every culture, the tradition of bride kidnapping has its own unique features and nuances. In some cultures, kidnapping is a real abduction that happens without the bride and her family's knowledge. In other cultures, it's a symbolic ritual staged to uphold traditions. Regardless of its form and content, the tradition of bride kidnapping serves an important social function. It symbolizes the bride's transition from one social group to another, strengthens social ties between families and communities, and helps preserve a people's cultural identity.
Marriage rituals are a universal phenomenon found in all cultures worldwide. They reflect people's ideas about marriage, family, and social relationships. Studying marriage rituals allows us to better understand the culture and history of different peoples around the globe. Education and progress. How the tradition of kidnapping is changing in the modern world. The modern world has a strong influence on traditional societies. Globalization, technological development, and the spread of education are leading to changes in culture and social relations. The tradition of bride kidnapping on Sumba is no exception.
In today's world, more and more young people are getting an education and have the opportunity to choose their own partners. They don't want their marriages arranged the old-fashioned way, through kidnapping and negotiations between families. They want to decide their own destinies and build their families based on love and mutual understanding. As a result, the tradition of bride kidnapping on Sumba is gradually dying out. More and more young couples are choosing to marry by mutual consent, without kidnapping or bride price. However, the tradition of bride kidnapping still exists in some remote areas of the island, where traditional customs and beliefs are strong. In these areas, the tradition of bride kidnapping is undergoing changes. It's becoming more symbolic and less violent. The kidnapping is often staged to fulfill the ritual's formalities and honor ancestral traditions. Education plays a significant role in changing the tradition of bride kidnapping. Educated individuals better understand their rights and freedoms. They don't want their marriages arranged against their will. They want to choose their own partners and build their families based on love and mutual understanding. Progress also impacts the tradition of bride kidnapping. Technological advancements, like the internet and mobile communication, allow young people to connect with each other and find partners independently. They no longer need help from their parents or relatives to find a partner. Thus, the tradition of bride kidnapping on Sumba is gradually fading under the influence of education and progress. However, it still remains an important part of the island's culture and history. It reminds us of the past and helps us understand how the world is changing. Conclusion. Lessons from Sumba for understanding human culture. The tradition of bride kidnapping on the island of Sumba is a unique phenomenon that offers a glimpse into the world of ancient customs and traditions. It reminds us that culture is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon shaped by the environment, history, and social relations. Studying the tradition of bride kidnapping helps us understand how people adapt to harsh environmental conditions and how they build their social relationships.
It shows us that even the strangest and most unusual customs can have deep meaning and an important social function.
The tradition of bride kidnapping teaches us to respect cultural diversity and understand that there isn't one single right way to live and build social relationships. It reminds us that every people has its own unique culture and history that must be carefully preserved and respected. In the modern world, globalization and the spread of Western culture have a strong impact on traditional societies. Many peoples around the world are losing their customs and traditions, succumbing to the influence of mass culture.
However, the people of Sumba are stubbornly resisting this influence. They carefully preserve their traditions and pass them down from generation to generation. The tradition of bride kidnapping is one of the symbols of the cultural identity of the people of Sumba. It reminds them of their roots and helps them maintain their uniqueness in the modern world. We should learn from the people of Sumba about the careful preservation of their culture and history. We must understand that culture is not just a set of customs and traditions. It is the foundation of our identity and self-awareness.
Preserving cultural heritage is a crucial task facing all of humanity. We must support traditional societies and help them maintain their culture and history. We must remember that cultural diversity is our wealth, which must be carefully preserved and respected. Studying the tradition of bride kidnapping on the island of Sumba is not only a fascinating journey into the world of ancient customs and traditions, but also an important lesson for understanding human culture. It helps us better understand ourselves and the world around us. It teaches us to respect cultural diversity and carefully preserve our cultural heritage.